Alright, all you graveyard shift racers out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And granted, folks, we didn't have any stunts from the wild world of stunts, but we were able to find a stunt of the week from this past weekend. And it comes from none other than AEW's own Miro with his said stunt, Miro's epic RPG kill in Call of Duty Warzone. Now, if you're wondering why in the world is Call of Duty being featured for a stunt of the week, well, Miro this week would be able to do a tracking RPG headshot with a rocket launcher, killing a guy and winning the match but getting 6th place at the same time, which is very impressive and something we just had to mention on this said show. So congratulations, Miro, you entered in the Stunt of the Week category for this week. And speaking of people getting their congratulatory mentions on this show, I think it's time for us to get ready to rev our engines and see who was the best of the best for this instant classic month in this track-like world, for us to go into a very special month-ending gatekeeping edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Month. And the first track that we have up comes from none other than Vintage 99. The irony in that for the instant classic month that we're in right now, with his said track, Rainbow Infinity. And according to the Maestro, this would be the 3rd year in a row that Vintage 99 would be featured in the Track of the Month category in the month of instant classicness. Nice! And the reason why in the world we picked this track for this week, folks, not only because it gives you a chance to use every car across the board with the exception of vans and weaponized vehicles, but this might be the closest thing to the craziest version of Rainbow Road you will ever experience in the world of Grand Theft Auto. And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is not only to pick a car that can handle this course, but also to make sure you pick a car with great handling so you don't slip off this Infinity Rainbow Road the hard way. And the hard way meaning that you will slip off and fall into the abyss. Just saying, that's a warning. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator Pt.4 with his said track, Way Wet Curt. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track for the month, well, simple folks. Anytime you have a Hot Wheel-like track in the middle of the ocean that features not only insurgents, ramp buggies, and also giant oversized phantom wedges that can T-bone you at a moment's notice. Hold on, I gotta do that right. That can T-bone you at a moment's notice definitely deserves to be mentioned during this Track of the Month elite list for this month. And Maestro said it's not a T-bone. In this case, it would be a pounce, period. Oh, so we're going Monty Brown with it? Either way, whether you get T-boned or pounced during this said track, folks, the only bit of advice we have for you is to make sure you don't get lapped or end up in the center while other cars is coming, because there's an 85 to almost 97% chance you will get knocked into the air and will lose this said race. Trust me. And the next track that we have up comes from none other than Genopa with his said track, G59 Corrosion Speedway. And the reason why in the world we picked this track for the week, or for this month, thank you for the correction, Maestro, is simply because it takes living on the edge to the ultimate level with the fact that this track is not only sideways but dips into the ocean and leaves you with little to no room for error while you're racing on this said track. And the only tip of advice we have for you fans out there for this said track is to definitely be careful if you decide to walk on that razor's edge, on the edge of that track where it's so close to the ocean you can touch it. Because if you do touch it, your car will slow down instantly and it will cost you during this said race. So yeah, be careful living on the edge. And And thank you for reminding me, Maestro. Also, make sure you have a good set of tires while you're racing on that said track too, or you'll slip in automatically with that as well. And besides us making Aerosmith song references for track advice for this month, the next track that we have up comes from the creator Carl PenzRam, or Carl PenzRam 531, with their said track, Swampy Thing. Love the name of this track, by the way, but the other reason why in the world we picked this track for this month is not only because it reminds me of something out of Rallycross, but the fact that this man was able to restore or at least try to keep this old abandoned speedway track alive, even though it comes with a little bit of water damage along the way, and that water damage, as a little bit of a heads up, may bog down your car. So make sure you pick the right car for this set race, and if you're crazy enough to go with sports classics or sedans or sports cars, make sure it's high enough off the ground so your car engine doesn't stall out once it hits the water. And the last but not least track that made it in for this month, folks, comes from none other than TemirMan_UZB with his said track, AMG Race Run 5 kilometers with the yen symbol in there. I'm still confused by that, but yeah, still made it for one of the tracks of the month. And the reason why that is, folks, because not only it gives you a chance to go down this giant oversized slip and slide with motorcycles, but also supercars, and probably one of the craziest races you'll be in for this entire year. And the only tip of advice, like we said before, folks, stay in your lane while you're doing this race, and beware of doing slipstreams to your opponents, because if you do, let's just say you might miss a bump or two and fly right off that track, which will cost you during this race. And yeah, be extremely careful if you decide to go the bike route too, because if you don't land with your back wheels first, yeah, you're gonna crash and hit the ground hard. And Maestro said, as an added bit of advice, you have to make sure your bike lands level with the track itself, depending on what side of the bump you take when you're going on that said hill slide-like track. Good advice, Maestro. Good advice. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any of these tracks that we mentioned for this week and try to race them for yourselves, you can head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and just click on the playlist we made for this week entitled Instant Classic Raceway to test them out for yourselves. And according to the Maestro, we had to abbreviate it to IC Raceway for you to test it for this week. So grab your friends and give them a go. And I guess with that said, folks, wraps it up for another monthly edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Month. And I guess with that said, we might as well head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Under the Radar for this month, right after this. So don't get lost in the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned.